Just like any other league, the NBA has some strict rules that players must follow. Even if it's a small or big violation, players get suspended immediately from playing and handed hefty fines. Anything like a positive drug test or a brawl during the game can get an NBA player slapped with a suspension. In this video, let's look at the players who suffered massive suspensions. Starting with number 10, Dennis Rodman. In the 1996-97 season, this one had his eyes set on scoring another championship for the Chicago Bulls. They won against the Utah Jazz thanks to their big three powerful lineups of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis himself, but they almost didn't have the versatile defender with them for this. Back in January 1997, they were playing a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves when he got a momentous suspension. The Worm stunned the sporting world with his questionable behavior during the game. He tripped over the cameraman's wires at the baseline. What happened next is the ugliest moment in NBA history. The infamous player got angry and kicked the cameraman, Eugene Amos, in the groin. He wasn't set for any punishment or technical foul during the game, but the league knocked him down badly for his mistake. The player, who's dubbed arguably the best rebounding forward in NBA history on the official website, had to settle with Amos for $200,000. He was also to miss 11 games without payment and receive a $25,000 fine. Ultimately, he lost $1 million because of this incident. For number 9, Carmelo Anthony. The fan-favored player Carmelo also had a tough start in his Denver Nuggets era. In December 2006, the team was playing with the New York Knicks when the Knicks' Marty Collins fouled J.R. Smith of the Nuggets by whacking his arms around his neck. He even knocked the player to the ground. Smith tried to comfort Collins, but then Nate Robinson steered him away, and the fellas exchanged some words then, and the next second, he charged into Robinson. Teammates separated the two, and things seemed under control since the referee took Collins out on a flagrant 2 foul. But Carmelo added fuel to the flames by sucker punching him. Marty fell to the ground, and then Jared Jeffries of the Knicks attempted to attack Carmelo, but he tripped over, and coaches and teammates stopped him. The 10-time NBA All-Star got suspended for 15 games for being involved in the notorious Knicks-Nuggets brawl. He got the worst suspension out of all 10 players. Overall, all the players received a combined 47-game suspension. Each team got fined $500,000. The public media was convinced that Carmelo had set his career on fire by stepping into the argument. Coming up at number 8, Joakim Noah. The NBA's Defensive Player of 2014 moved ahead of his peak days in 2017, but still bagged a new deal from the New York Knicks, labeled the worst signing in franchise history. Still, Joakim seemed super thrilled to continue playing like the top-notch performances he had. He was ready to play above and beyond that. In March 2017, the 32-year-old violated the league's anti-drug policy. He tested positive for Ligadrol, a banned supplement that contains a substance functioning to enhance lean muscle while reducing fat. So the NBA announced a 20-game suspension for him without pay. He ended up missing the remainder of the 2017 season. It cost him about $2.5 million. The union's statement released was sure that Joakim made a regrettable mistake since he was cooperative during the investigation. The player even put forward his deepest apologies. At number 7, John Collins. Even though he's an underrated power forward player today, John didn't have it easy a few years back. In November 2019, he earned a lofty suspension for 25 games. The incident gave him a bad reputation. What exactly did the Atlanta Hawks big man do? Well, just like Joakim, he tested positive for Promorelin, a drug that boosts the growth hormone. His suspension left the Hawks hopeless in 2019 because the team didn't perform that well without him. According to ESPN, John took a supplement and wasn't aware that it was contaminated with the banned drug. Next up, at number 6, DeAndre Ayton. Just 2 weeks before Collins got suspended for violating NBA's anti-drug program terms, DeAndre Ayton got penalized. In October 2019, he was banned for 25 games after he tested positive for a diuretic. These are regulated because they assist the body in eliminating evidence of banned substances, such as steroids, right before testing. His absence made his Phoenix Suns squad lose the playoffs by tiebreaker rules. If the All-Star was present on the court in the first half of the season, we're sure the Suns would have won more games. Up ahead at number 5, Stephen Jackson. During his NBA career, the player has been handed many suspensions, but his longest hit after the famous Malice at the Palace brawl in 2004 is the most scandalous brawl in the history of the NBA. Fists, chairs, punches, plastic bottles, everything was flying. What rolled out of the game between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons was a brawl between the Pacers and fans in the stands. It started after a fan hit Ron Artest in the face with a beer. Our captain Jack decided to jump into the crowd to punch that fan, so he was given a 30-game suspension and lost $1.7 million of his salary. Anyway, the game was held at the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan, and Netflix even released a documentary of the incident as the first part of its untold documentary film series. We found out that fans, players, coaches, and officials at the game felt that their lives were in danger. Anyone who was on the court was questioning their safety. The Pacers coach at the time, Rick Carlisle, released a statement saying that he felt like he was fighting for his life. As for the Pistons then coach Larry Brown, he said that the brawl was the ugliest thing he'd ever seen and how it was disappointing that their young fans would see that. Brown was also embarrassed for the league. Not to mention, at number 4, Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert played for the Washington Wizards from 2003 until his downfall in 2010, but 2 years before that, he signed a 6-year deal worth $111 million with the Wizards in 2008. Still, the former All-Star ran into some big legal troubles in 2010 and got suspended for a whopping 50 games. It also involved fellow teammate Javaris Crittenden. The two players got busted because apparently Gilbert brought guns into the Wizards' locker room. He also admitted it in court. Everyone involved in the locker room gun ordeal has something different to say. We've also heard that Crittenden pulled out his gun, loaded and cocked in response to Gilbert's. According to two league officials, the incident resulted from an argument over a gambling debt that Arenas owed Crittenden, supposedly as high as $60,000. We'll never really know what happened that day, but they broke NBA laws and state laws since they drew guns on each other. Javaris received a 38-game suspension, and Gilbert got a longer one because he was being investigated for his possession of firearm. Now for number 3, Latrell Sprewell. With the Golden State Warriors, Sprewell was an all-star, but then it all went down because he didn't respond well to criticism from head coach PJ Carlesimo. On practice one day, chaos erupted when the coach yelled at the player to improve his passes, specifically asking him to pop some mustard on the passes. He warned his coach to keep his distance, but the head coach approached him. He threatened to kill him before assaulting him, grabbing his throat and choking him for about 7 to 10 seconds until his teammates and team officials pulled him away. After the 52-year-old got a hold of himself, the player punched and elbowed him again. It wasn't his first incident with the Warriors, since he's fought teammates before. Anyway, his one-sided beef with his coach earned him an 82-game suspension from the NBA. After appeal, it was brought down to 68 games. Moving on to number 2, Ron Artest. Just like Steven Jackson, Ron Artest also received a gigantic 86-game suspension. It's the longest any player has been handed, if you talk about the games. During the infamous Malice at the Palace incident, he got into a tussle with Ben Wallace of the Detroit Pistons. Next, he was hit by a cup, or some say beer, by a fan. Jackson was already punching a fan, but Ron rushed to the stands and beat up a fan who supposedly threw it at him. He was taken back to the court by coaches and teammates, but then he went to punch 2 more fans in the melee. Wrapping it up at number 1, O.J. Mayo. Even though he was considered one of the most highly touted prospects when joining the league, Ovington J. Anthony Mayo led a troublesome NBA career. In 2016, his basketball career came to an end as the NBA handed him a suspension for life. He tested positive for a drug which wasn't revealed, so he violated the anti-drug policy again. Back in 2011, the spectacular player was suspended for 10 games because he took steroids, which the NBA bans. This was just for 2 seasons. He wasn't brought back in 2018, so his career ended for good. That's a wrap for this video. Which player do you think should have received a more serious suspension? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. And we'll see you in the next one.